Hi guys, welcome to Ask an Innovator, where we will attempt to dive deep into the mind, body, and soul of innovation. I have a couple amazing guests today. We have Thom Currie and Amy Sellors. I'm going to start with this. The 1989 romantic comedy, When Harry Met Sally, proposed the oft-debated question, can a man and a woman be friends without sex getting in the way? Harry said it wasn't possible. Sally thought it could happen. The two tested the premise and became very good friends over the course of until, of course, one night they became more than friends. I felt it was the perfect way to introduce Amy and Thom. Like the comedy movie, not only do Thom and Amy have a great sense of humor, they're friends, they're lovers, and like Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, they are actors. So before me, I have two professional actors. Thom and Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Super excited to have you. So my first question really is about how the heck did two professional actors from the big city end up in Thunder Bay?
How did we end up in Thunder Bay? We were asked. We were invited.
You weren't told?
No, we weren't told. We were asked. I've worked at theaters across Canada, as has Amy, and I was running a theater in Stephenville, Newfoundland and Labrador, on the west coast of Newfoundland. So it's the west coast of the east coast. And I saw a job posting at Magnus Theatre in Thunder Bay. And Magnus is one of the great theatres of Canada. It's one of the great regional theatres of Canada. I think it's the 7th or 8th largest regional theatre in Canada. And I thought, wow, that would be a fantastic job, because when I was first starting out, Magnus was the place to go. It was, you could do incredibly cutting-edge work at Magnus. You could do all sorts of great things. And Thunder Bay was, at the time, Thunder Bay was not as cool as it is now, but it was it was a city unto itself. You know, it didn't owe anything to the other big centers of Ontario. So that's when I applied for the job, and then I went through an incredible interview process with Skype interviews from across the country, and then phone interviews and essay writing and all these things. And then ultimately they flew me up. I was 12 hours late for my interview.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. There was fog in Halifax.
Right.
So if you're flying from Deer Lake, Newfoundland and Labrador to Thunder Bay, that's almost a whole day's with all your changes, because you have to change 3 times. There was fog in Halifax, which brought that Jenga down. So my interview was scheduled for something like noon, and I think it was 9 or 10 p.m. by the time I wheeled into Magnus.
So you got the job, 12 hours late, and you got the job.
Yeah, I still got the job.
Yeah, so you got the job. So for those that don't know, and I didn't say this, Thom is in fact the creative director at Magnus Theatre. And Amy, just to kind of give you a little bit of a tip as to kind of where Amy's coming from. Amy, not only being a professional actor, bakery blogger, professional baker, and marketing consultant. So we have a real 1-2 acting kind of power punch here. Yeah. And so Amy, you decided to follow Thom's brave lead and come to the barren north of Thunder Bay.
I go where he goes.
You go and act along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Act like you love it.
I do love it, though. And I had worked at Magnus twice before, in 2005 and in 2009. I had done a couple of great shows at Magnus, completely separate from any work with Thom, and I'd had a really great time. I loved the theater, the space, the people I met, hiking in the woods, going to the Cascades. So I was very excited to come somewhere that I already had a bit of a relationship with.
So you acted at Magnus. How many years ago did you act at Magnus versus actually moving to Thunder Bay?
The last time I'd been here was in 2009, so it had been a while.
In 2000, amazing. And you and Thom were partners in crime at that exact time?
At that time, yes. Yeah. Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
And so Thom, now today, how much acting do you do versus how much creative directing do you do?
I don't do a lot of acting anymore. The last time I acted, I think, was the summer of 2016, and it was because somebody dropped out of a show, and I had to step in to a production of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels in Newfoundland, and then I had to dance, and I had to do all this sing, and then I had to do all this stuff. So, and it had been a couple of years, so it's a little bit rusty. But it's mostly like the artistic director job at Magnus is such a huge commitment that I'm working all the time to make sure that we can, there's the business side of it, then there's the creative side of it, where I'm choosing the plays, finding the actors, directing the actors, putting it all together to make it to the stage. So to add acting on top of that right now would be incredibly difficult. I get the itch though.
I bet.
When we're in the room, we're in the rehearsal hall on the 3rd floor at Magnus, we are like, we start telling stories. We start to, oh, wouldn't it be great to do this again, sort of thing. So maybe someday.
So I'm seeing a convenience in your relationship. If you have an actor bail out, flop, no show, so to speak, which I imagine artistic types have been known to do.
Oh, yeah.
These eccentric types have been known to flop or flake out every now and then. I see that the strategy here, you have kind of Amy as an ace up your sleeve, learn the lines, call you in, get to work.
Yeah. As long if she's ready to do it. If it calls for a 75-year-old man, I'd have a problem.
Well,
but
I'm very, very flexible in my
versatile.
acting.
you don't look like a 75. I don't know if makeup could actually get you
Makeup
that
helps.
far. Does it? Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, it's amazing that the two of you are in Thunder Bay and that you've made the commitment. Did you have any? So Magnus. So I understand that Magnus is one of the only professional theaters, and excuse me, I don't have the jargon quite down, between, would it be Sudbury and Winnipeg?
Yeah, it's that distance, the only professional theater between Sudbury and Winnipeg. And so we have a very large catchment area in terms of professional theater. There's lots of community theaters, lots of amateur theaters, which I think are a fantastic part of the art scene here in Thunder Bay. But Magnus is the only one we're the only ones bringing people from across the country to perform here.
You moved here about a year ago, the two of you. Describe what it's like 1 year later relative to week one. How is week one, how is it living here in the first week versus 1 year later? Has Thunder Bay changed? Do you feel part of the community? Have we embraced you? Have we welcomed you?
I definitely think we're becoming more a part of the community. It's strange to move somewhere as an adult where you don't know a lot of people, because we're used to at a young age making new friends. And the older you get, the harder that is to do.
Yeah.
So I think when we first moved here, it was cold. The days were short. Busy at work, settling in. So it was a little isolating at first, I think. But we have made friends. We go out more. We see more things. We're making connections. We spend a lot more time outside, which is really nice. Something in Toronto, you walk the dog to the park that's close to your house. Here we can walk in great wooded areas and really explore. So I definitely think we're connecting with the community more, and I still think there's room to grow with that.
Yeah, no.
It's very interesting because so many people often talk about Thunder Bay, and they point out the positive points being the nature, the beauty, the landscape. The weather seems to be getting warmer. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It doesn't seem to be so freezing here.
Yeah.
How about the arts? Is there enough of an art culture here outside of your work, so to speak, to fulfill you? Obviously, your work is your passion, and your passion is your work.
Oh, I think so. I think, and that's one of the reasons we came. I mean, the last time I was in Thunder Bay, I think it was 1989 before I came for my interview. I'd driven through a couple of times and I'd toured through a couple of times, but any significant time spent here was a long time ago for me. And when the offer came and we started considering even applying for the job, I started some heavy research on what Thunder Bay has become over the last 20 years. And so, there is this great foodie culture, as you know, as you well know, that's happening in Thunder Bay. There's a fantastic art scene. There is a fantastic visual art scene. It's the only fully professional symphony orchestra. Outside of the TSO these days.
That's amazing.
So the TBSO is amazing. So there is this incredible culture that has had its renaissance here in Thunder Bay over the last couple of years, and that's I'm seeing that continuing. That's what, as far as I'm concerned, that was one of the major things that drew us to Thunder Bay.
Wow. And I'm drawn to you so much so that we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back. We're going to talk to Thom and Amy a little bit more about we're going to talk about vulnerability. We're going to talk about these ideas about ego. We're going to talk a little bit about fear. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. Don't go anywhere. Stay with. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Ask an Innovator. Thom Currie, Amy Sellors. We're going to get a little deeper into the mind of these two innovators off camera. We were just talking about murder capital rates, and we were talking about what might be considered the highest concentration of visual artists per capita in one city. You guys identify that we have a lot of visual artists. You were just talking off camera.
Oh, yeah.
Get into what we were just talking about. It's pretty cool.
Well, I think it's interesting. I know visual artists here. I mean, in Toronto, I know of people. I see art. It's very, I'm distanced from it, I feel, in bigger cities. Art is less approachable. And I find in Thunder Bay, it's about the relationship with the artist. The art is more accessible. It's more, you can connect with it more. So I feel like I see more of it and I can connect more with it and the people who make it.
And it's everywhere here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's from the sculptures on the street that upset people when they first got put up. That was our first week in Thunder Bay.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, now we're all behind those sculptures,
right.
which is fascinating. At first, people know we don't like those sculptures, and now there's going to be more and more of them.
Right.
So public art here in Thunder Bay is it's almost a very European thing. We're seeing it cropping up more and more. I'm also I'm running into photographers every day. I'm running into visual artists, painters, sculptors. Everywhere you go here in Thunder Bay, and to us, that is that was a bonus. That was an attraction.
Yeah.
That was when we got here. We went, oh, there is all this public art. There are all these galleries, Def Sup and the Thunder Bay Art Gallery, and all these fantastic places, and bands and support for bands, and all those things.
Right. We have a very successful art community, clearly. Let's talk a little bit about success. Here's a Jack Kerouac quote that I'm going to hit at the two of you. Great things are not accomplished by those who yield to trends and fads and popular opinion. Again, Jack Kerouac. And I think that quote lends itself to art. Often artists don't care about fads and popular opinion. How do fads and popular opinion factor into your life as artists?
Well, I don't think artists should care about that. I think an artist needs to be true to him or herself. I'm in a position where I have to sell tickets, and that's a challenge. What I have to establish with my audience, with the people that are coming to see what I do, is trust. I have to get them to trust that I'm going to provide them with an evening of theater, an evening of something that is thought-provoking, an evening that will make them laugh, make them cry, make them think. And that's one of the things. Building trust with an audience is incredibly difficult and important to a theater artist. The easiest thing would be for me to just go out and pick the most popular 5 plays that were done in Canada last year,
right,
and just do those on the Magnus stage.
Right.
I think our audience at Magnus, the Thunder Bay audience, deserves more than that. I think they deserve to be challenged. I think they deserve to be given a thoughtful process as they go through their evenings. So I think Kerouac is right to a great extent, is that the artist needs to be true to themselves before they try to put it out there to the world. Amazing.
Actors have to be confident people. Often confident people are sometimes misunderstood as being egotistic. Here's a quick Aretha Franklin. Maybe I'll hit this one at you, Amy. Aretha Franklin, I'm about to give you all my money, and all I'm asking in return, honey, is a little respect. Do you think ego and respect relate to each other in your world as an actor?
Oh, interesting. Well, I think it's important to have an ego, but it has to be an ego that you're aware of and that's in check. That you know when to stamp on the floor and say, give me some respect, and you know when to lay back. It's like leadership, knowing when to lead, knowing when to follow. It's about knowing your place in the room and what you need to give at any moment. I think that there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, and I think this is sort of where the rubber meets the road. You do have to have confidence in any field, where you want to stand in front of people and say, look at me. You need to have confidence. When it becomes arrogance, you're not listening anymore. And I think that you can garner respect naturally, easily, by having confidence that still has humility within it, and not bombastic arrogance.
Right. I love what you said. Having arrogance, and to kind of dovetail what Thom said, having arrogance and not listening is a good way to break trust. And it's a good way to not sell tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we all are selling something
Yep.
Yeah.
along the way.
And you
it's-
need to be confident or no one's going to buy it.
Right.
Because if you don't believe in what you're selling, product, service, self, then no one's going to want it.
Amazing. Getting on stage is a very fearful endeavor for many people. Even booking guests on this show, when I say it's going to be on a TV camera, people are thinking, "Oh yes, I want to tell my story. I want to have a chat about innovation." Okay, we're going to put you in front of a camera with a bunch of bright lights. Yeah, no, I'm busy that day.
Yeah.
Let's talk about fear. Mark Twain. Fear of death follows fear of life. A man who lives fully is prepared to die at any time. Do you feel facing your fears is living life to its fullest? Do you face
Yes.
fears when you go on stage?
Yes.
Yeah, not just on stage. I mean, when you go out in the street, you face
Yeah.
fears. I mean, it's. I think if you are comfortable all the time, you're not going to innovate at all. You're not. You have to go to step out of your comfort zone, and that to me is facing your fears.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Awesome.
it's easy to bury your head. It's easy to be an ostrich. Although I think ostriches have neck problems, but
Clearly.
it's one of those things that you have to do. I mean, you have to, in order to create anything, whether you're creating a meal, whether you're creating a piece of theater, whether you're composing music. You don't just want to do what someone else does, but there will always be that fear of, what if nobody likes this?
Yeah.
What if this is just no good? For me, that's a big part of day-to-day life. I mean, getting up in the morning, every time you pick up a phone, what's the person at the other end going to say? That, to a certain extent, is facing your fear.
Sure.
Whether you're talking to your bank manager or you're talking to your friend, every time you pick up the phone to call someone or receive a call, you're facing a fear on one level.
Yeah, I like what you were saying about fear. Facing a fear is really lending itself to innovation.
Oh yeah.
In a lot of ways, and facing a fear, who knows what the other side of that looks like?
You don't know.
In the right way.
And you can strategize about what that might be, and you can strategize and say, okay, this situation I'm about to enter in, I don't know what's going to happen. Let me look at the possible outcomes that may arise, and none of those may come to pass. But you can strategize it, but you can't control it. Fear it's there, and all you can do is breathe in the face of it and walk forward through it and hope for the best.
One of our most feared experiences is failure. That's the negative outcome of facing a fear is failing. Challenges can be daunting. Here's a Mike Tyson quote. And following this quote, maybe we can talk a little bit about, especially being an actor, maybe not getting the applause you were looking for, maybe not having a good show. I mean, you're really putting yourself out there. So a very simple Mike Tyson quote: "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." Have you ever been punched in the mouth?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think failure is, getting punched in the mouth. Is it a failure? Is it an attack? I've been
Assault.
attacked. I've been assaulted.
You've been assaulted.
I failed. No,
It
but
was so bad.
I will always say that I will always say to the actors in a rehearsal hall, I will always say, allow yourself to fail. That's what this room is for. You're currently in a safe place, and
Right. Awesome.
because you learn from failure.
Yeah.
For me, it's one of those things. You go, okay, yeah, you've. And failure is always there's big failures and small failures. Sometimes, a show can fail financially, but be critically acclaimed, and vice versa. So it's one of those things. We go, hey, you can fail, but that, for me, that's part of building. That's part of innovating. You can't always have success. No one has complete success. If they do, I want to meet that person.
Absolutely.
So.
Speaking of failures, we are not failing right now. I am not failing. My guests are fulfilling me. We're going to come right back with Thom and Amy. We're going to talk a little bit about what it might take to become an actor. All kids want to become actors, firemen, police officers. Thom and Amy are going to give you the recipe to become an actor when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Ask an Innovator. We are here with Thom Currie and Amy Sellors. Has anyone ever wanted to be an actor? I'm assuming you probably all have. As children or as adults, we've often wondered what it would be like to be in front of the camera on a stage. Thom and Amy, at what point did you decide acting was going to be your career, and how did you make it happen?
I don't know that I decided. I think it was just always there. I was a stage kid from like age 6, standing on a chair, singing show tunes, dancing around the living room. There were no choices.
She still does that.
Yeah, good. Always on.
Always on. So my parents signed me up for dance lessons and singing lessons and acting lessons and working with community theater groups, and then I went to a high school for performing arts. I went to a theater school for post-secondary, and then I worked as an actor for the last 20 some odd years.
So natural ability weighs heavy.
Yeah, you need to have some natural ability. I mean, there's lots of training you can get, but primarily it's a field that's about passion. If you're not passionate, you can be very skilled, but you won't last long because there's so many hard knocks within it. So you need passion. You do need some natural ability because you have to be able to sing and dance and act. You can learn these things, but you have to have a bit of aptitude.
Do you recommend acting classes for people?
I do, yeah. I mean, there's always a natural. People will have a natural aptitude for it, but it's something that I will always say. Take some classes. A lot of it's about learning etiquette.
Right.
A lot of it's it's about.
Oh my goodness!
It's how to behave.
Acting etiquette.
Yeah, how to behave in the rehearsal hall. How to behave.
Right.
In front of an audience. It's about modifying your behavior more than anything
Interesting.
else. And then you dig deep and your emotions come out.
Wow.
And there are techniques for that as well. But for me, a lot of theater school is and should be about etiquette and about how to behave and how to get and how to listen.
It sounds like something that should be taught in grade school.
Yeah.
Acting etiquette.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's studies. I mean, I worked in theater for young audiences for over a decade, and it's one of those things where when you start going into classrooms and doing theater classes, you start opening doors for some of these kids. I mean, I was teaching a private series of classes a long time ago, and I had this one little girl, and Dad came up to me at the end of the series and said, what have you been doing with my kids? And I was like, what do you mean? She said, well, she's now talking more at home.
Wow.
She's now conversing. She's engaging.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we've been doing improv classes.
What a great compliment.
Where she's not allowed to not talk, so she's kind of soaked that in and taken it home.
That's amazing. Are there acting classes in Thunder Bay? There must be.
Oh, gobs of them.
Yeah.
Applause and the Badanis have a bunch of classes, and there's lots. You can. Magnus has classes as well for youth, and we're starting a class for seniors soon. But yeah, we got tons. Thunder Bay is just rife with acting classes.
And the most important thing is getting feedback. I think that's the most important reason to take a class, because as an actor, you can so easily get in your own head and think, oh, I sound great. I'm doing a great job. Oh, I felt so emotional. What a great thing. You need to hear feedback from other people to see if what you feel here and what you think you're doing is reading to other people, because it's the communication between who's watching you, who's listening to you.
Wow.
And if they're not receiving it, then you need to modify it.
Amazing.
So it's about feedback more than it is about craft.
Right, and processing that feedback in a constructive way.
Yeah.
And seemingly in a professional environment.
Yes.
So the feedback is pointed.
Yeah.
And I've worked with actors in their 40s and 50s who don't know how to take feedback.
This is learned behavior.
This is and that's exactly what it is. That you have to learn how to behave and how to take the feedback, and I have to learn how to deliver that feedback as well. When I was in university, somebody once said to me, "Oh, you're so mean," and so I've spent so much of my career going, "Okay, am I being mean or am I just being constructive?" So yeah.
That's amazing. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the money and the business side of acting. Tell me if I'm wrong. It seems as though there's the ultra rich actor and the ultra poor actor.
Yes.
Is there? Recently, we just had Disney acquired 21st Century Fox yesterday for $52.4 billion. There's a lot of money or a little bit of money. What are your thoughts on all of this?
It is not a lucrative business. People want to, you want to build stars. If you're, I mean, from a smart business perspective, you're producing a project, you want to have someone attached to that project that people like, that people know, that's recognizable, that's a brand. So you find someone who is already that. So the issue is, how do we get people to that process? And that's the middle ground where it's hard to make money. I think the statistics that like 10% of actors make a complete living without having to do other work.
Right.
The majority of actors I know do other work. I've done other work. I think the best thing you can do is find self-directed work and not have to depend on other people. So it's why I started a baking blog and a baking business, and I can work as in marketing and communications and teach, so that I can make money when I can't be an actor, because there isn't enough acting work for the number of people applying for it.
That's amazing. And Thom, you've gone ahead. Now you work in the industry. Your career is the industry. So as Amy pointed out, you might be that 10%, so to speak, that of would-be actors actually earning a living in the industry.
Not actually acting though anymore. I'm more administrating right now. And that's I mean, and that was always the dream for me. Is I always knew that I wanted to direct, and then I wanted to artistic direct at a certain point, because those are two different jobs. I mean, I direct the plays, but I also artistic direct the company. And that, I mean, I'm very lucky, and it's there are not a lot of us. There are not a lot of artistic directors in Canada. I mean, it's a hotly contested job, and when it's, I mean, Magnus did a national search, and they had people from California and Florida and all over North America applying for this job. So I feel very blessed to have gotten this job.
That's amazing. I love the gratitude. Really quickly, we have about a minute left or so. What piece of advice would you give for children or adults that want to get on stage or behind a camera? How do you get there?
Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Well, follow your passions. Don't be afraid. Listen to people, and I don't mean this as a plan B, but also focus on other things as well. Don't be myopic. Focus on many things so that you can do what you love and be successful.
And if you want to pursue a career or just arts as a hobby, get out, get involved. Don't just sit and think about it. You have to do it. You have to get out of the chair and do it. And it is a lot of work. So.
Absolutely amazing. I could talk to you guys all day. I feel we got 30 seconds left, and I'm just getting deep. I'm just getting into the mind of innovation right now. So we're probably going to go for coffee after this and talk more about life. Maybe I'll film it on my iPhone or something. Put it on YouTube. Maybe we're not that interesting. Thanks for tuning in. I had a blast with Thom and Amy. Thank you so much. You guys are fantastic. So go out, act, go out and innovate, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.